It's the Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from the Hobbit Hole studio in Bobcaygeon. I'm your one and only host for this podcast, Terry. My good friend Jim is still absent from the hot seat, soon to return. Just a reminder, the opening theme music is from our theme song from 7 years ago, 7 years of the Jim and Terry Show. And the theme was coffee. It was sort of like comedians in cars with coffee, Jerry Seinfeld. Only it was Jim and Terry in a Hobbit Hole studio with a coffee complaining about life. Two retired guys with opinions. And sometimes those opinions are controversial, especially when they get into things spiritual or things that are the separation line between belief and science. Where's the difference? Where's the line drawn? Or do you draw lines between evidence-based knowledge and faith-based beliefs? I use that difference, knowledge versus belief. Well, sometimes we get like that, but mostly our podcasts are just about having an opinion, a discussion, a banter back and forth, using the theme, Have You Heard? What's the latest that you heard? In Jim's case, it's on his drive to the Hobbit Hole. He picks up a lot of news in his drive, and he comes with the latest from the source that he consults, which I believe is some kind of, CFRB type station. I'm not sure. Jim can correct me when he returns. But he gets his news via radio in the car. Not Sirius satellite FM, just traditional FM radio from a local station. Kind of interesting where we get our news from, and news that we consider reliable. A couple of things that are worth exploring, and I'll start off with this one. Air Canada just announced its first fully staffed flight of LGBTQ2SIA plus crew and staff on a flight. Fully crewed, I guess is the way to say it, with what would be considered by those on the right to be a woke flight. Yeah, inclusive. It included the people who have far too long, in my opinion, been marginalized. You might disagree with their lifestyle choices. I guess you're free to disagree about choices, but you're not free to disagree with them as human beings or human rights to be allocated and ascribed to people who have traditionally been marginalized, people who would have been burned at the stake, who would have been beaten in fields, hung from trees, people who have been far too long oppressed and brutalized. What a thing to celebrate. Air Canada goes woke? No, they're just affirming that everyone has value. And that was the celebration that they announced. I believe it was just this week. And from crew to staff to flight people, it was a celebration, and Air Canada was very proud of it. Of course, when you make an announcement like that, you're going to draw your hatred, because there are people who just hate by virtue of someone else's existence. Not that they did anything, just what they are is I was going to say something nasty. It's just an affront to what they believe should be traditional Christian, Judeo-Christian, if maybe just faith-based beliefs about morality. It conflicts with that, and they have this cognitive dissonance where they can't put it all in perspective. Jesus didn't teach about homosexuality. Just a reminder of that as a starting point. And the Old Testament laws, well, if you're going to judge people by Old Testament laws, there are a lot of people who should be rounded up and judged and stoned and lit on fire and all the rest of that, capital punishment for all kinds of things, like gathering food on the Sabbath, helping people on the Sabbath. The rules are quite clear if you want to follow them. But no, we pick and choose. And in this case, Air Canada has chosen to value human life and dignity. The crew is not woefully untrained. They are as qualified as anyone else who is straight. Is that what I say? Or white. In the United States, they wrestle with this problem of anti-DEI and anti-woke And what that really means by practice is simply you are against people who don't look and sound like you, which means you're basically some kind of a white nationalist. I'm going to throw that one out there. You can agree or disagree. But to announce that you've got your crew all LGBTQ affirming, that's pretty significant. But the blowback was even more. And if you saw this on Twitter, and there were lots of hatred on Twitter about this, you can follow the story yourself. It's noted in a couple of major newspapers and all podcasts. Lots of them are covering this. And take a look at how it's covered from the left and the center and the right. Just out of curiosity, you can see that hatred is mostly spewed from one particular side of the political, social, cultural aisle. And it's those people who didn't want Kamala Harris because she was too woke for you. Well, I think you might be living in the land of, dare I say this because it offends people, the land of buyer's remorse at this point if you're in the United States. Canada has avoided that so far. All right, moving on from that Air Canada posting. Kudos to Air Canada. Some people will not fly Air Canada. That's up to you. Knowledge. That's where you make your decisions. Trump's social media frenzy. Do you know? This is just stats. Trump has posted 2,262 truths on Truth Social in just 132 days of his presidency. 17 times a day since inauguration. Triple Trump 1.0. And most of it occurs in the early hours. What are you doing, Trump? What are you doing in what? And what are you posting? Let's see if we can break it all down. It's funny that 3 a.m. Washington time is mid-morning in Moscow. I wonder if is he waiting for instructions as to what to post? I don't know. Speculation. NATO improving its commitment. Now, yeah, okay, I'm not going to say Trump is a good guy on this one. His actions were destructive and counterproductive, but the result is that more and more NATO countries are committing. In fact, NATO's bigger because of Trump and his support of Russia. So NATO has grown, included more countries, and its defense commitment is increasing all the time, including Canada's big shift and big pivot away from America to an EU, UK, Kanzuk-focused defense procurement. How about this? Not only did Ukraine go spiderweb on Putin, but they also went Kerch Bridge on him, and that was another one. Who knows how long these devices were attached to the pylons of the Kerch Bridge, but that Crimean connection was bombed just the other day. And before doing any of this, Spiderweb or the Kerch, they didn't tell Trump. It's none of his business. He's the one who's holding up progress in Ukraine. He's the one who's supporting Russia. So why would you tell him? He's the one who leaks stuff to Russia. Who were the first people when he won in Trump 1.0? Lavrov and Kislyak in the Oval Office? The ambassador and the foreign minister? What? Yeah, so that set the tone for what was going to happen. So Ukraine didn't inform Trump, didn't let America know that they were doing this. They had all the cards, didn't tell Trump. And boom. Yeah, that's another thing. Trump installs a Putin-connected official to dismantle his anti-Russian unit of the, I'm going to say it's the FBI. So, yeah, why would you dismantle that? Because you don't want them to find anything, or you don't believe it to be true. So who is this guy? I don't really know a lot of him, but, you know, when you put Tulsi Gabbard in on Fox, from Fox, and you put them in as DNI, Department of National Intelligence, you got some kind of problem. And then we don't even want to talk about Qatar and the jet, the golden jet. So much. The Jim and Terry Show. Bye-bye for now.
It's complicated, this relationship I have with my morning coffee.